Guys, this shouldn't surprise you because he's kind of always in the state of doing this one way or another, but Elon Musk is crashing out hard right now. I mean, he is getting attacked by MAGA and continually insulting them as they insult him. Instead of pandering and apologizing and begging for their forgiveness and loyalty again, like he probably should for his own, best interests. But for those that have not been caught up on the situation, in the United States, people who own businesses in the realm of tech highly, highly value H-1B visa immigrants. They come here and they work for American companies for much cheaper wages than American workers do. Oftentimes they even have better educations and are more skilled and require less training on site for said jobs. And so when it comes to these big tech bros, such as Elon Musk, the idea of stopping the H-1B program, a very popular position with Trump and MAGA, is unacceptable to him. And now that Trump is elected and, Elon's pretty much secured his position in our government on that Doge committee, they're kind of letting the mask slip. You see, Americans that supported Donald Trump believed and fell for the idea that immigrants were coming here, they were taking our jobs, and they were nuking the economy. And that Biden's, or I should say that Kamala Harris's open border was destroying our economy and was responsible for the high gas and grocery store prices. People bought this idea. Trump promised that he was going to shut down the border, tariff other countries, and this is going to fix the economy. And that was, of course, the number one issue on the ballot in this election. The problem is, Trump's not actually going to do anything good for the economy. His tariffs are unanimously agreed upon by experts to be guaranteed to nuke our economy in a very bad way. A lot of people are going to financially suffer far more than they have in recent U.S. history due to Trump's economic policies. And beyond that, if he actually did go through with shutting down the H-1B program and heavily limiting immigration, it would not do well for the economy regardless. But that is what supporters of Trump voted for. They either wanted brown people out, or they believed that people from South America, or just overseas in general, immigrants were coming and they were taking our jobs and they were ruining the economy. And the fact that now Trump and Elon refuse to destroy these programs and are even calling the people that want the programs to be gotten rid of racist, after, for the record, Trump came out and said he wants to get rid of the H-1B program multiple times, it's really pissed off MAGA. And since then, MAGA has been jumping down Elon's throat, as you can imagine, and Elon has not taken it well. He has been banning, he has been taking the check mark away from people. Twitter is dying now because even the conservatives that have been propping it up are now canceling it. And leaving the site to go to like Truth Social, where they can go be loyal to Trump. It is a shit show. And on top of all of that, Elon Musk changed his Twitter profile. I need you guys to see this. It's so fucking cringe. Elon Twitter. Oh, man. Let's look at Elon Musk's Twitter profile really fast. Oh, did he change it back? I think he changed it back because he was getting bullied so hard. Okay, he changed it back because he was getting bullied for it so hard, but for a hot minute there, he changed his profile picture to an AI-generated Pepe the Frog playing video games in, like, Roman Legionnaire armor, and named his Twitter account Kecius Maximus, which is a reference to his Path of Exile character that he... and everyone in the Path of Exile community calls him out for this, is very obviously botting the game. He does the same thing on Diablo 2. Any game he plays that has billboards, he is the top of that billboard, a big thing that, like, his followers dick ride him for, like, oh my god, he's a genius and he's the best at every game he plays. They really glaze this guy. In reality, he pays people to constantly be playing on his accounts 24/7, using the best of the best exploits and builds. And obviously, he holds the top of the leaderboard in Diablo 2 and Path of Exile, I believe. And I think a couple other games as well. But he just pays people to bot his account. and he uses, or they use, exploits as they run it. So to be very clear, Elon is in a lot of ways a loser, but I thought you guys would enjoy that little bit of backstory in regards to what Kecius Maximus is referring to. So let's hop into it. Elon Musk is just really spiraling right now, crashing out hard, and let's see how attacking MAGA works out for him, because those are the only people that ride with him now. MAGA are his biggest supporters, his biggest fans these days. The idea that he's now calling them unrepentant racists. Whew! Let's see how they've reacted.
First, there was Timothy McVeigh, an American military veteran who killed 168 people, including 19 children, in a terrorist attack on a federal building in Oklahoma City. Timothy McVeigh parked a truck outside that building loaded with explosives in an act of homegrown American terrorism. Timothy McVeigh's hatred of the American government was not tamed in any way by his service in the American military.
Is this like having to do with the Cybertruck Vegas thing? Because that's a different topic that I'm not even on right now. I guess we're opening on that, I suppose.
So, too, with America's latest terrorist attack in New Orleans on New Year's Eve, with an American military veteran driving a pickup truck through a crowd to murder 14 people. The American military veteran terrorist was then killed in an exchange of gunfire with police. But when Donald Trump sees the type of terrorist attack that occurred in New Orleans, he doesn't remember Timothy McVeigh, and instead he blames the criminals that he imagines are crossing the southern border. Hours after the attack in New Orleans, Donald Trump wrote, quote, "When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true." No one out to be true.
The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before.
We have record low crime rates right now, so just blatant lie.
Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil. Pure evil.
True. No one who has ever crossed the southern border in the history of the existence of the southern border has killed more people in this country than Timothy McVeigh, who was born in Lockport, New York, the northwest part of the state, into a white Roman Catholic American family.
Here's the problem with this kind of stuff. I don't know if this talking point works in response. Let me break down why the right focuses so much on stories like these. To the American people, entering this country should be a privilege, not a right. That is what Americans believe. They love their country so much, even for all of its problems, that entering America should be a privilege you have to earn with a high standard to earn said privilege. Just to enter America. That is what most Americans believe should be the rules. And it technically is the rules as it already stands. And on top of that, they believe that if someone is an immigrant and they come here and commit a crime, then that is a crime that is 100 times worse than any one that could be done by a native-born U.S. citizen. Because to an American, someone who's an immigrant that commits a crime shouldn't have been here in the first place. Even if they came here legally, the fact that they ended up doing something bad, their mind, with only hindsight, considers that person to have been someone who never should have been here. This is something Trump often says. And can you argue with that logic? If someone who is an immigrant kills a bunch of people, and Trump comes out and says, that guy,
he should have never been here. He should have never even been here.
In hindsight, That's an easy point to make and hard to refute. But when you use that logic to judge people who have not committed any crimes, they would say yet, but just simply have not committed any crimes, and try to use situations like that to prove a broader point, it becomes a very dangerous mindset. It becomes a mindset that radicalizes people into believing that every immigrant is on thin ice, and that their being here is not so much a privilege as it is actually parasitism. And it starts to escalate. All you have to do is focus in on the cases where an immigrant does something bad and make this argument that they shouldn't have been here at all to commit that crime.
With roots in this country that go back farther than Donald Trump's roots in this country. The New Orleans terrorist, like Timothy McVeigh, reached the rank of sergeant in the United States Army. The simple fact is, this country has suffered more deadly terrorism at the hands of American-born citizens who...
Like, his point is true, and if you're a logical, rational individual, then this is a good argument, but Trump supporters are not logical, rational individuals. They are sycophantic, brainwashed weirdos. They believe that a crime committed by a native-born American is bad, don't get me wrong, but that it's fundamentally different than a crime committed by an immigrant. They see it as like, oh, we gave you the privilege to come here, and you stomped on that privilege by committing a crime. You shouldn't have been here at all in the first place to commit that crime. And so this affects how people look at all future immigrants, right? Hell, I mean, you see the same logic with, like you'll see, like, a woman post on social media, like, all men are trash, and some guy will be like, no, they're not. And then she'll reply, if you had a jar full of jelly beans and one of them was poison, would you even eat one of those 1,000 jelly beans and risk it? And it's a good point in regards to, like, the whole, like, men are trash argument, but then you carry that logic and you realize it's the same point of logic that conservatives in America use to argue why we shouldn't allow any immigration into this country, or we should stem it almost entirely, because any percentage of those people possibly committing a crime should never be risked. If there's ever a risk of someone who wasn't originally here coming here and then bringing trouble, then no one should be brought here. That risk should never be taken. That is a very easy jump in logic for Americans to make. It's just what we're culturally primed to believe.
Who are veterans of the United States military than people who have crossed into this country at the southern border. It is very clear from the evidence that if you want to worry about terrorism in this country, the United States Army is a much bigger problem than the southern border. No one who crossed the southern border attacked the Capitol on January 6th, 4 years ago. But several veterans of the United States military violently attacked the Capitol on January 6th in an act of terrorism intended to terrorize Congress into violating the Constitution and not certifying Joe Biden as the elected president of the United States.
Once again, it's just a case of a lot of these mainstream progressive outlets not really having their finger on the pulse of America. Like the idea of Americans and ex-military going to the Capitol to harass politicians in order to get what they want is the kind of shit that makes Americans go, yeah, that's what we need more of in politics. Like, making the politicians afraid of the people. That is what a lot of Americans agree with. It's probably why Jan 6 fell flat as a line of criticism on the right and Trump, because to most Americans, what Jan 6th was completely acceptable. And if their guy didn't win, they would have done the same thing. A lot of Americans think that way. Most Americans do not have respect for democracy if it benefits the other side. No one likes democracy when it benefits the other side. Most Americans just don't really like democracy. They like when it allows their side to win, because a lot of them have team sports brain. But besides that, They don't really care for it.
With the country reeling from the attack in New Orleans, and those of us with family and friends in New Orleans worried about their safety, the big players in Donald Trump's world were not talking about New Orleans. They were talking about visas. Former Trump staff member Steve Bannon got in a public argument on Twitter with the owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, that provoked Musk.
Dude, Trump's not even inaugurated yet. And these people are having a civil war already. Guys, if this is anything to go off of, the next 4 years are going to be a lot of infighting among the Republicans for us to watch and laugh at. Let's just say the Republican infighting is going to be the silver lining to the next 4 years, okay? We're going to spend a lot of time enjoying their fighting and their collapsing of themselves to get through how awful of a leader Trump is while he's in power.
To call Trump supporters like Bannon, quote, unrepentant racists.
Ooh.
Musk seemed surprised to discover that there were any racists supporting Donald Trump. Remember the outrage in both the news media and Trump world 8 years ago when candidate for president Hillary Clinton referred to some Trump supporters as, quote, deplorables, the racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
They called themselves the Deplorables proudly after that, by the way. They took it as a badge of honor and then continued to win an election off of that talking point. Yeah, we're the Deplorables. The establishment thinks we're deplorable. Once again, I'm not saying that anything this guy is saying is wrong, just doesn't really have his finger on the pulse of America. I do. I know how stupid they are. If you make reasonable arguments like this that don't appeal to their illogical, emotional, reactionary sensibilities, then they're just going to turn their brains off and stop listening to you, because the things that he is criticizing right now are things that Americans have been trained and brainwashed into thinking are actually good, right? It's like, you want to have a conversation with the American people about how shoving your dick in a car door and slamming it 15 times in a row is bad, because doing it will hurt you and cause pain. But Americans have been convinced that hurting yourself and causing pain is not bad. And so when you begin and end your argument at, you shouldn't do it because it causes pain and will hurt you, you failed at making an argument, because the brainwashing goes so far as to convince them that the consequences are fine. You know, like it's that bad. Like you aren't arguing with people who exist under the same set of principles in regards to engaging with the world and interpreting the world around them as you do. Like, you're talking to someone who might as well think that, like, the world is flat, the sky is purple, and the moon's made of cheese. You really might as well be arguing with someone who thinks that way.
Donald Trump pretended to be deeply offended at Hillary Clinton's accurate description of some Trump supporters. When the richest person Donald Trump has ever met, who also happens to be the richest person in the world, calls Trump voters unrepentant racists, Donald Trump, of course, sided with the rich guy against his own supporters. Donald Trump decided to publicly agree with Elon Musk that we should admit more skilled immigrants into this country, even to take jobs that Americans are eager to do.
This is a good point. I've noticed that a lot of progressive figures have dropped the argument that, like, these immigrants are good to bring in, which I think is problematic, but I think for the sake of this polarizing topic, it's valuable to play into their narrative that these immigrants are harming the U.S. workforce in order to then move the argument to, and Trump went back and Elon went back on canceling that program that they all already agree is bad. I don't know if we're going to win anytime soon on the argument that the H-1B visa program is good for American workers. Americans are convinced almost unanimously it's bad. But if you then say, okay, sure, it's bad, and now Trump and Elon are defending it, that's a working point. People are pissed.
Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman writes in his Substack article titled, "MAGA is already eating its own, pass the popcorn," quote, "Like many observers, I expected severe buyer's regret fairly early in the second Trump administration. After all, many Americans who voted for Trump did so because they believed he would bring down grocery prices. He was never going to be able to deliver on that promise and stopped talking about the subject as soon as the election was over. Sooner or later, voters were going to notice. I did not, however, expect a mega civil war weeks before Trump had even taken office."
Neither did I. I thought it would at least have to be like a couple days into his actual presidency, but this shit is blowing up to a level that I would have never predicted so soon. And he's 20 days out, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like it's 20 days away till his inauguration. Happens on the 24th, right? Is it the 20th or the 24th? 16 days away, so it's the 20th. Okay. So on the 20th, we're 16 days away from Trump's inauguration, and they're already having a MAGA civil war.
Elon Musk threatened Trump supporters like Steve Bannon on Twitter, saying, quote, "Take a big step back and F yourself in the face. I will go to war on this."
What I love about this is whenever Elon tries to act confident, you just know that if he said these things, he'd be like, take a big step back and fuck yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, like the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. Because that's how he talks. I can't even imitate how cringe his way of speaking is. But he has like, there's not an ounce of intimidating factor to the way he speaks. He stole that quote from Tropic. He did steal that quote from Tropic Thunder. Oh my god, dude, he's such a fucking boomer, dude. He's like, he continues to do that "how do you do, fellow kids" thing, but because he's the world's richest man, I guess "how do you do, fellow kids" isn't cringe when he does it. God.
This issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. Vivek Ramaswamy joined the Musk side of the argument by saying that American workers are just not as good as foreign workers. American workers are mediocre.
I mean, it is true. Americans are mediocre and stupid. It is true. We're worse educated. We tend to have a worse work ethic because we're not really working for ourselves as much as you might be in a lot of other countries. You know, we got a lot more unrestricted capitalism here in America. And yeah, like laziness is a bit of American culture because we've been trained to be lazy by the fact that we're not really rewarded properly for hard work most of the time. Like unless you're a self-starter or an entrepreneur, hard work, like in the wage cage area, is probably not going to get you as far as many would like you to believe. At least your managers would like you to believe. So yeah, like it makes sense why a lot of business owners would look at workers that come from other countries and be like, wow, way better than these dumbass American workers.
Ramaswamy said, quote, "American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long. Imagine if Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or any Democrat anywhere ever said that American workers are mediocre."
This point needs to die. Like the whole, imagine if a Democrat said this thing. Yeah, we know. Trump supporters admit that they grade Trump on a curve. Yes, obviously, Trump can say things and get away with it that Democrats couldn't even say a fraction of being as shameless or bad. Yes, that's Trump's whole brand, is he is allowed to say whatever he wants and do whatever he wants, and there are no social or political consequences. And their whole thing is that they will take even the slightest hint of a rumor of a negative thing about someone else, and it is far more serious than anything Trump could be caught on video doing, even if it's 100 times worse. That's what grading something on a curve means. That's why they say it. It's their fancy way of saying, Trump, there's no rules for Trump, but we will say or do anything to attack you without outright saying it. What grading Trump on a curve means is they grade him unfairly. their standards for Trump are different than the ones they have for any Democrat politician. They're open about this. It is not a gotcha statement to point this out. They are very proud of this fact and will own it to your face.
American workers are not as good as foreign workers, and that, quote, American culture has venerated mediocrity. Paul Krugman writes, quote, so where is Trump coming down on all this? It has always been clear that he shares the tech bros' contempt for ordinary Americans, but is he willing to openly sell out his MAGA base? Why, yes. After Elon Musk told Trump loyalists to F themselves in the face, Trump sided with Musk. The terrorist attack in New
I'm curious to see what the first Trump approval rating poll comes out to be. Imagine it's higher than Biden's. Just be like...
Orleans brings into sharp focus what is at stake.
Let me actually show you. Oh, man. That Trump, grading Trump on a curve thing. I've got the perfect data to demonstrate this, okay? All right, I found it. Okay, cool. This is from Ipsos. This is an Ipsos data point. Significantly more Republicans, registered voters, say the 2024 election was legitimate and fair than said so in 2020, where Biden won. Joe Rogan actually just said the quiet part out loud and said, what? Trump won? Man, I guess elections are real. That was literally Rogan's reaction to Trump's win, was, man, I guess elections are real. Fucking crazy. So you can see that only 55% of Republicans thought that the election in 2020, Republicans, only 26% in 2020 thought that the results were accurate and legitimate, while 91% of them found the results legitimate in 2024 when Trump won. So for Republicans, it is literally a damn near 75% difference, or damn near 75% of Republican voters, registered voters, that were polled, believe that the election is fair only if their guy won. It is not profound to point out that Trump supporters have unfair standards when it comes to Trump and the Democrats. Anything that is bad for Trump is bad. Anything that is good for Trump is good. That is literally how they operate. They're very open about this. It's not a secret. It's literally provable with data.
In the Senate confirmation hearing of Donald Trump's choice for director of the FBI. The confirmation hearing for Kash Patel as director of the FBI will be held in the Senate Judiciary Committee, with our first guest tonight, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, asking questions of the nominee, who has publicly said he wants to eliminate the intelligence unit in the FBI that investigates terrorist plots and has successfully stopped many of those plots before they were carried out. Here is what Kash Patel said he wants to do with that unit of the FBI and with the rest of the FBI.
The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big. And the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out.
What they're trying to do is shut down the FBI so it can't, like, in the future be used to investigate Trump. Like, let's say Democrats win in 4 years from now. Trump might commit a bunch of crimes in office, and even with the Supreme Court finding that they're official acts and they're okay, the, like, courts could still push to charge and criminally try Trump for, like, something really bad he could do. You know, like, we don't know how bad it could get. Like he could really go crazy. And in that scenario, the FBI would probably head the investigation into Trump. And so dismantling the FBI helps all other Republicans and Trump in the future have very little to no accountability.
Out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
Question. If Americans are this stupid, how do we stop them from running the world to the ground? We desperately try to educate them. Like that, you realize that this is just an information war, right? And an information war is fought by getting as many ears to listen to your side as possible. The Republicans have succeeded at this massively over the last 10 years. More ears and eyes are on them than anyone on the left right now. It is literally an info war. And so the only way you win an info war is to get your voice heard by as many as possible. This includes those of you guys who think you might be good at doing content yourselves. Start doing progressive political content. Start debunking popular conservative talking points. Cover the news from a factual-based perspective and try to get it out to as many people as possible. Debunk popular conservative figures and call them out for their bullshit and hope that their fans stumble upon your videos and realize what scam they've fallen for. And support the creators that you do watch, such as your favorite lefty streamer, Xanderhall. You could support me, for instance. One way you could do so, of course, is by dropping a like on this video. Every single thumbs up helps a lot, as do comments. Liking and commenting is totally free and is, in fact, the best way to boost my channel in the algorithm, so I really appreciate everyone who does that. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you haven't already so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos in the channel, because if you don't, they won't. And if you want to see more from me on other platforms, make sure to follow my social medias that are linked down below in the description, including my Blue Sky and my fan Discord, where I'll be hosting a watch party after stream tonight. And finally, if you want to support me directly, you can afford it, you feel like it, and you want to help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xanderhall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, Patreon, or buy some merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support my stream, though, I hope you enjoyed this segment, and as always, I hope to see you again, and have a good one.